Good morning. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Hi. My name is Robert Douglas, and thank you for coming this morning to hear me talk about Open Source Bach and to hear Kimiko Ishizaka play selections from the Well-Tempered Clavier. So we have a bit of an odd setup today, and I wanted to just tell you the technical aspects of what's going on. So in addition to being recorded by DrupalCon, this session is also being live streamed out to Google Hangouts right now. And anybody, I just tweeted about that a whole bunch, so please retweet that by all means. But could anybody just confirm that you can see the live stream? If you could check out the tweet stream and click, and you should actually be able to see me like 30 seconds after you've seen me. Really cool. And if I could just get that confirmed, that's really helpful. So this is a very atypical DrupalCon session as well, because here in front of me you have a Steinway grand piano. And we're actually going to demonstrate some of the benefits of open source music. And I wanted to say thank you to the DrupalCon organizers who have bent over backwards to make this session possible. This wasn't in their logistics plan. So for the past couple of years, have been doing a project called the Open Goldberg Variations. That was actually the first project, and now we call it just Open Goldberg because we've expanded the scope of the project. But what that was is a collaboration between a pianist, oh, I hear myself, it's working wonderful. Great. The collaboration between a pianist, who's my wife, Kimiko Ishizaka, a open source software music notation program called Musescore, several of the online internet libraries of public domain music recordings and scores such as IMSLP, a piano manufacturer, Busendorfer, a record producer, Anne-Marie Sylvestre, and a world-class recording studio in Berlin, the Teldec Studio. And what we did is we got together and used Kickstarter to raise money to make a recording of this piece, Bach's Goldberg Variations, and we released that into the public domain using the Creative Commons Zero license. So this kind of turned the recording model on its head, because we went to the fans to support our efforts in advance of the recording, and then in return for their support and their trust, we gave the music back to everybody to use however they wanted to use it. Along the way, we picked up some other partners, and maybe this is where the whole model starts to become shocking, because it's very natural for your way of thinking as the Drupal community to give away digital goods online under a free license. That's nothing new. But to have a publisher of music from Munich stand up and say, hey, you know, that's a great idea. I would actually like to print that on paper and sell it, and it's public domain without any copyrights. That was pretty spectacular. That was a very unexpected twist in our project. And that was fun, so they did that. They published the Goldberg Variations and distributed them on paper. And I have to hold the microphone to the computer because we didn't hook this up right. We made an iPhone app. So I got ahead of myself, but the two things that you just saw were one of the things that the score that we made, the public domain score, enabled was an iPad app and other similar presentations of the score where you can actually hear the music and follow along with it at the same time. And we're going to try and demonstrate that later with a real live pianist right here in front of your very eyes. risking our lives, miracles will happen. So then the second thing that I showed you, the girl dancing, that just made me very, very happy to see, because when you give the music away for free, you don't know what people are going to do with it. You don't know how it's going to influence their lives or how they're going to receive it, if their hearts are going to be open to the message that it has. And then I found this girl in her dorm room or wherever she is dancing to it. She just posted that on the internet for no explanation, you know, just dancing to that music. And that proved to me that the message of the music, the happiness that is inside of it, was actually going out to a lot of people. And that was very nice. Another side effect of the project was that one of the signs of success that we had was that days after we released the music, the editors, high-ranking editors at Wikipedia, actually updated the Goldberg Variations page on Wikipedia and put about 16 sound samples from the recording right there on the page. And that's very nice, because now when inquisitive people who really want to find out what is this monumental work, the Goldberg Variations, I've heard Robert Douglas talking about it for the past 3 years, I may as well go look. They'll go to Wikipedia and they'll look on Wikipedia, and then while they're reading about it, unlike on many other Wikipedia articles about music or art, you can actually hear it right there in a high-quality studio recording and a very nice interpretation. So in that way, we're also making this music more accessible to a lot of people. So if you want to check out all of that, go to opengoldbergvariations.org. You can download the music. You can find the score. There's a link to the free iPad app, and that's all great. And also, I want to point your attention to the flyers that you have on the chair. And this is our current project. We're on tour, actually. This is the third concert lecture of a 12-concert tour that we're doing to promote the current Kickstarter project, where we're trying to do the same thing that we did with the Goldberg Variations for the Well-Tempered Clavier, which is the music you're going to hear in just a little bit when Kimiko comes and takes the stage and plays for you. So as you can see, we're halfway to the goal that we've set of 30,000. We'd appreciate your help. There are some really great rewards, and you're making people happy when you do it, like the girl that you saw dancing. So check that out. But, oh, and there's the URL. It's easy to remember. It's like Kickstart Open Well-Tempered Clavier, only it's kck.st/openwtc. But what's open source about all that, after all? I mean, the title of my talk here at DrupalCon spoke about open source music, and so far the only thing that I've told you about is recording some music and giving it away for free with a Creative Commons license. That's hardly open source. So I've tried to start thinking about the 4 freedoms of open source music, an analogy to Richard Stallman and the Free Software Foundation's 4 freedoms of open source music, or open source software, free software. So for me, these mean the freedom to play or listen, so that you don't have to get permission to play or listen in any context, for any reason. That you have the freedom and the ability to edit, and so make in your mind a distinction between the score, which is like a document that describes the music, and performances or other uses of the music, and that would be the recording. So there are actually 2 goods in this equation. And for that to be open source, you would need to be able to edit that. And to be able to edit the score, you need that to be in a format that supports editing. Just like if I handed you a Microsoft Word document as a file and you didn't have Microsoft Word, you could not edit it. You need to be able to edit that music file. And in terms of the recording, the source for a music recording is actually the multi-track data from the studio that has more of the information than the final mix that you get when you get the recording. You would need the freedom to distribute that music, so to send it around to people, to give it away, to play it in public contexts, and the freedom to remix it, to use it in your own videos, in your own contexts. So in my mind, at least, that's the concept that I have of what open source music would be. But there's one more aspect, and that's something that I've learned from you guys, and that's DrupalCon Copenhagen, in case you weren't there, and that an open source project to really succeed needs community around it. So we're also looking to build as much community and momentum around this idea as possible, along with tools for people to actually work on things and collaborate. Which brings me to Musescore. Musescore is the open source notation project that I mentioned at the beginning, and this is also where it starts to tie into Drupal specifically. So Musescore was founded by Thomas Bante, who is a diehard Drupaler for a long time. Knows Dries since Dries was still in college because he's Belgian, he's from Ghent, he's from Ghent, so he's grown up with Drupal. And they set out on a mission to democratize music. They realized, they looked at the sheet music industry and realized that if you're going to have music on an ongoing basis, you need the notes, you need the music, the sheet music. And the industry for printing sheet music is in like an existential decline towards the bottom. They're having a hard time finding business models that survive the copy machine. And it's even worse now that you can find great versions of things like the Open Goldberg Variations online and just download them. So they don't really know what to do when their entire machinery was set up for printing pieces of paper that are hard to get and mailing them to you. So they've reacted by raising prices and focusing on bestsellers only, and only for popular instruments, which means that the long tail that the internet enables is not there. So that was the Musescore's call to being, and they created an open source software project. These days over 300 contributors are involved. I know that sounds small to a Drupal person with 800,000 people involved, but actually that's a very thriving open source project. They've got 5 million downloads, and this is what it looks like when you open it up. It's Microsoft Word or OpenOffice for sheet music. You can edit those notes, you can add new notes, and you can make print quality music that is very complex, including all the different variations like Gregorian chant, tablature, choir music, lyrics, cheat sheets, whatever you want to do. So, yes?
I think it's important to point out that Musescore is not just a tool for making dots in the right place on the page. It's got music XML behind it, so it's actually semantic music information.
That's right.
It's open source.
So Mr. McGuire in the third row is pointing out that it's not just a way to draw pretty dots on the page, it's also the semantic information of what the music should sound like. So the computer actually knows that it's a C major chord and it can play it to you. And you can export it into an industry standard format, music XML, that is portable between different music reading programs. Everything that you guys would expect in a program that is modern and worth its salt. So on the session proposed topic, I had 4 topics. The first one is how Drupal allows musical scores to be treated as content, allowing groupware collaboration, editing, annotation, playback, and embedding on third-party sites. So there's a big problem on the internet when it comes to music notation, in that the internet just doesn't even know it exists. There's no standard format and no standard rendering engine for sheet music that is ubiquitous and always available. You can't just copy and paste music from one program to another, and you can't just tell your browser to play C major. It doesn't work. You have to overcome hurdles, install plugins, and it's not standardized. So Musescore is helping with that. This is the musescore.com website, and you see a score in the browser. That score can play itself. I won't do that here. But you can also, it has all of the metadata. You can download the score in any of several different formats, including music XML and MIDI, which I mentioned. And it's the source for the score, so you can download it and edit it. So it's in that way, it's distributing the source. Plus, you can take this embeddable widget, just like a YouTube video, and put it on any other website, and the score has all of its properties there as well. So in that way, they've started to solve the problem of distributing scores on the internet. There's a long way to go, though, and we need browser-level support for that before we actually can treat music like it should be treated, which is a text-based language that's been around for 100 years in a standard format that has an XML rendering, so it should be something that's built right into HTML5 or 6. So one of the things that Drupal helped them with in this case is that Drupal allowed them to extend the content model to account for all the things such as titles, composers, key signatures, duration, and then index all of those things into Solr, and then search on it, with faceted search, and then build API-driven services on top of that using services, OAuth, REST server. And that then allowed them to do things like power the embeddable scores on other websites, calling those APIs, grabbing that rich metadata about the music, and also to build mobile apps that can similarly query Musescore.com's music library, pull scores into your iPad, and then do more things with them there, including edit them or play them or just read them. So one of the typical use cases for this is that a choir director will upload the scores for the rehearsal or the concert into a group, and everybody will show up with their iPads already loaded with those scores in rehearsal. And if he's needed to transpose it to a different key or add fingerings or change texts, I see some light bulbs going off in the audience. Raise your hand if you're a singer. They flock together. So, and that's a use case that they're seeing repeated over and over and over again. Now that works really well because a singer can hold on to something and do something with their hands while playing, unlike a violinist or pianist. Those are some other problems to solve. And here's a screenshot of the search interface. So they've done some nice theming of the facets over there on the left, and this is the search results when you're searching for scores. So you can filter by instruments, the number of instruments, the genre. That right there, the number of instruments, that's critically important. Try searching the internet for pieces to play with 5 whatevers. I mean, these are the hard problems that the internet doesn't solve very well yet. Semantic data for scores. And this is a video I took. I'm hovering over these yellow boxes are annotations on the score. Every one of those annotations it's the annotation module by, I think, John Van Dyke originally. And each one of those starts a forum topic or becomes a comment in the comment thread, I can't remember which, but it means that you can go to a point on the score, draw a little square and say, hey, right here, you should finger that with 3, 4, 5, or take a breath before this phrase. Or you can, the way we used it for Goldberg Variations was that people could look at the typesetting of the score and find mistakes in the typesetting. So it was like the issue queue for the score. And this is the only opportunity on the internet that I found where you could collaboratively work on the source code of a score. So that was pretty cool. And this is all thanks to Drupal. There's a module for that. So another one of the things that Drupal has done for this project is that it facilitates a paid membership model with strong privacy controls to protect composers' copyrights and intellectual property while generating revenue for Musescore.com. So Musescore is 2 entities. It's an open source project, musescore.org, that's much like Drupal.org. And then they actually have a commercial entity behind it that is also of the same name, Musescore.com. So these guys have to earn money to keep going, and they've tried to build a Flickr or a Vimeo for scores. You pay a membership model, then you get the ability to set your privacy controls, to have some more storage for your scores, some more capabilities. And Drupal enables that very well. So here's the GoPro on Musescore.com page, $49 a year, about $4 a month. And they've done that. In Drupal 6, that's a turnkey solution with UberCart. In Drupal 7, it's a turnkey solution with Drupal Commerce. In fact, my Drupal Commerce colleagues in the room will tell you that we've just made Drupal Commerce with the licensing model and the Commerce license file modules such a powerful tool for licensing of digital goods that there's no reason for anybody to use anything else anytime ever. Now or in the future. So Drupal really enabled them to pivot from being just an open source community to being a commercial entity as well, which came later to sustain the open source effort, basically. And using the private module, they are able to, there's a module for that. They needed private scores for composers to protect copyrights and distribution, and there was a perfect module for that. So Drupal has really enabled this project in many ways. One of the most interesting ones, though, is how Musescore has used the translation technologies. So how many Drupal sites are you aware of that are available in 30 languages? A couple of you. Okay, well, here, add one more to your list. Musescore is community translated into 30 languages. And it's not only translated into the website, the software is translated too, using Drupal technology. So you know how we translate the strings in Drupal using the localization server and localize.drupal.org? That'll look familiar to you. That's like localize.drupal.org, only it's translate.musescore.org. And this is where the community translates the Musescore software into more than 30 languages. So you can see Drupal, by solving problems for our own open source community, has solved problems for other open source communities as well. We just don't always hear about it right away. So here's a short list of the obligatory, these are the modules I used slide. But actually, the easier thing to do is to just go get Gabor's installation profile that they do for internationalization and localization, and all of those are all configured and set up there already. I think it's, anybody know what that's called? There's an installation profile, a distribution on Drupal.org for the localization efforts, and it's got all those modules in there. So I want to talk to you about how modern electronic versions of scores enhance the music experience online and in live performance. So first I showed you the concept of scores that play themselves. You put play, and I didn't actually show you that. Well, you saw a little bit, a brief bit of it. I showed you scores with annotations. And one thing that I didn't show you that they have on musescore.com, it's this concept called a video score. And say that you've got a score describing the Moonlight Sonata, and you've got your 10-year-old daughter and her first piano recital playing the Moonlight Sonata, and you want to link those two things. You can on musescore.com, you can put the URL for the YouTube video onto the Moonlight Sonata score, and then there's a tool to give it some cues to synchronize right, and then you can watch the Moonlight Sonata being played with the music going by to your daughter's Moonlight Sonata recital. It's a great tool. So check that out. Okay, so I'm very close to the end of my presentation, and before I give you the last bit, I want to tell you what happens next. So what happens next is I have 3 minutes for questions, and then I'll invite Kimiko Ishizaka to the stage. She's going to play for the rest of the time, and in one of the pieces that she plays, I'm going to do the score following exercise here, so that you'll see it. It's 3, 4, 5, 6. It's like the 6th or 7th piece she plays, but you'll see it. I'll wave my hand or something, and the score will follow along with her live. Now, quid pro quo. It's a little bit faked, but we've done this same presentation in a couple different contexts. We did it in a very large concert hall at a music convention called Classical Next in Munich, where she played some Goldberg Variations. And not only did the computer listen to the piano playing, find where she was in the score, and project where it was in the score, it also used a Node.js server and a local Wi-Fi network to project it to everybody's laptop and computer in the room, so that they could just pick up their iPhone and watch the score in the room as she was playing. If she slowed down, it slowed down. She speeds up, it speeds up. And that worked nicely. Then we went one step further, and we broadcast the recording to the entire state of Wisconsin on 30-some different radio stations, each with a different delay. And people could go to one single website, and no matter where they were in the state, whatever radio station they were listening to, it was perfectly synchronized with that radio station. Now think about it. Radio stations and the internet are completely disconnected. But we did that as well with this technology. So you'll excuse me faking it today. All right. So my last point before questions is that open source music is very good for pedagogy. If I were just to give you a PDF of a score, that's already good. It's better than nothing. But you can't color code the 5 different voices in a Bach fugue from start to finish, so that the analysis of where the voices are and where they go is already done for you. And so that people who might not, oops, going the wrong way, so that people who don't read music might actually have a small amount of insight into how this is put together. So this fugue that she's going to play, it's like a 5-part choir, and one person starts, then another person comes in, then another person comes in, until all 5 are singing, so to speak. And they go from start to finish independently of each other, as if they were 5 instruments playing 5 different things, and it all magically fits together, and that's one of the reasons why Bach is so amazing. Okay, that done, I would like to ask if you have any questions. So please stand up and say your question, then I'm going to repeat it for the microphones. Any questions? Yes, sir. Adam.
Hey, how you doing? My question is this: what is the next step for the music industry to, have this be more ubiquitous? To have, for example, I'm an opera singer, and to have opera scores available in this manner, such that you could, rather than have a PDF from IMSLP, actually have a Musescore score on your iPad or something.
So the question is, what's the next step for the industry? How do we get the industry to adopt this type of technology? Well, one of the ways that we do that is to show the clear value of having the scores in digital format, and the clear value of having them contained in libraries that either make the free stuff available for free or make the paid protected stuff, because we're not going to eliminate copyright, available in an easy-to-use manner like iTunes is easy to use. If you could just download your score and pay the right price for iTunes and have everything that you wanted, people would do it. But we need the scores in that format first. And I'm going to drop a little bit of an announcement now, in that one of the reasons that these scores are so important, and I didn't know this until recently, is that they're the only inroad to this music for visually impaired and blind people. Had no idea until somebody wrote me and told me. So we need to establish the value of all of this to the industry in a way, and also the market value for that to happen. So the first step, the very first step, is to go support my Kickstarter project. Okay, good. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So there are big competitors in the proprietary world for writing scores, Sibelius and Finale, among others, I guess. Do you know of any move to? I was just thinking maybe you could save as XML from Sibelius and then suddenly open things up. You'd have to be working with them, or
So the question is there intercompatibility between Sibelius and Finale, the proprietary programs in this space? So yes, both of them import and export from Music XML, but yeah, there's a lot to talk about on that topic, but we should really get to the piano playing. Sibelius is definitely doing very badly, and Finale is now starting to act like a monopolist and raising its price, so people have more incentive than ever to use Musescore, in my opinion. And thankfully, I'm not affiliated with Musescore directly, so I can push for them, whereas the Musescore guys are really modest in their promotion, so they never say that directly, but there's no future in the proprietary software for that. Okay, then with one last question.
Just about the music XML format and the semantics of it. Is there a move to integrate that with, say, the audio data API and that sort of stuff that Mozilla and Google are working on? And
God, I hope so.
actually a web standard, so we can start marking up things that relate to music and all sorts of things actually as a W3C standard.
So what is the state of play in terms of actual standardization around Music XML? I don't know how the Mozilla things are going with that. Google has their own effort as well, so expect chaos. Are they all together? Great. So you probably know more about that than I do at the moment, but I really hope that they do standardize and do work together, and I hope that browsers someday can render Music XML and play it. That would be brilliant. Okay, then, with just one moment of technical switcheroo, I have to stop screen share, and I have to prepare everything for the piano. There you go. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Kimiko Ishizaka playing Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier. Thank you, everybody.